Today we'll discuss how to create the motivation to write every day so you can consistently improve your skills and write more books. If you've seen any of my other videos, you might wonder what makes me qualified to talk about this topic. To understand, you'll have to know what I was like 6 months ago. Back then, I had to force myself just to write the 5,000 words I would submit to my writing coach each month. I only worked for maybe 30 minutes to an hour on hard stuff every day, and after that, maybe 2 hours on easier work. Besides that, I didn't do anything productive. I played games on my computer, I watched YouTube videos. Even the effort of reading a book seemed like too much after that initial spurt of work. I wanted to make progress and reach my goals, but when it came time to do the necessary work, I had no drive to follow through. Thankfully, I found a way to change my behavior, and now I pretty much spend all day working on things that will move me forward. With every day, I move closer toward my goals. And you know what? I'm having so much more fun and enjoying my life more than ever. So if you want to finish that book or series, but just feel like you can't find the internal drive to give it your best effort, this video was created exactly for you. And by the way, this stuff is super important. Take some notes so you can remember the content of this video because it could change your life. First, the basics of being energized is all about self-care. It's hard to do anything if you feel bad all the time and you have no energy. There's 3 big parts to self-care. We've got sleep, movement, and nutrition. First, we've got sleep. Everyone knows what it feels like to miss a night of sleep. You literally feel sick. And a few hours less than you need on a regular basis can cause you to think less effectively and worsen your mood. So make sure that you're getting the proper amount of sleep every night. To figure out how much sleep you need, stop using an alarm temporarily. You may get more sleep than normal at first, but eventually this will settle down to a consistent amount of time every night. And that consistent time is how much you need to feel good naturally. Next, we have movement. Do something with your body. If you like exercise and pushing yourself, do it. If you prefer dancing, taking a leisurely walk, or stretching, that is perfect too. The point is to get in touch with your body and move. It helps you feel better, raises energy, and also helps stave off the cognitive decline that begins after you turn 25. Next, we have nutrition. There are 1.5 million diets out there, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about energy. So eat in a way that makes you feel good. If you eat something and it makes you sleepy, gives you brain fog, or hurts, then it might be a good idea to avoid that food next time. By paying attention to what sorts of food actually feel good in your body, you can improve your health and energy levels. If you take care of your baseline self-care, you'll have a much better base of energy to build motivation upon. And the next way you can increase your motivation is going through a dopamine detox. The concept of the dopamine detox has blown up over the last few years, and for a good reason. It works. While delving into all the science of the dopamine detox would be out of the scope of this video, here's a quick summary of how it works. First, your brain releases dopamine when you do some sort of behavior that feels good. This creates an association between the behavior and the feel-good response, making you more likely to execute the behavior in the future in order to get that response. So if we want to feel motivated to write every day, we should create an association between writing and feeling good. It seems relatively simple, but it's complicated by our modern lifestyle. You see, our brains only have a limited supply of dopamine. So if you're constantly using stimuli that release large amounts of dopamine, you won't have any left to strengthen the connection between the hard work of writing and the satisfaction of making progress. There are plenty of behaviors in our modern world that can exhaust our natural dopamine resources. Some examples are drugs, alcohol, porn, or any other outright addiction, gaming, watching TV or movies, watching YouTube for leisure or without the intent of applying what you're learning, and social media. An important note about these behaviors is that they're often hyper-stimulating and incredibly easy. And since our brains naturally like to conserve energy, these opportunities to feel good with almost no effort are especially appealing. For an extreme but illustrative example, let's compare working on your book versus doing drugs. Working on your book requires a lot of effort, creative energy, and eventually after a while you finally get that natural reward of feeling good about the progress you're making. Let's compare that with doing some sort of drug. It only takes a few minutes after first ingesting it to feel a hyper-stimulating level of pleasure. It may seem a little simplistic, but your brain is making comparisons just like this one. It's trying to optimize for behaviors that provide the most pleasure with the least effort. And this is why if you have hyper-stimulating, low-effort behaviors in your life, it becomes extremely hard to work on difficult things that will only provide a natural level of stimulation. So by cutting out these hyper-stimulating, low-effort behaviors, you can increase the amount of available dopamine you have and create a connection between the hard work of writing and the natural satisfaction of making progress. So how do we implement the dopamine detox? First, consider if you do any of these hyper-stimulating, low-effort behaviors that I just mentioned. Do you do these on a regular basis or even daily? It may be useful to eliminate some or all of these behaviors. I'm not saying you need to become a monk to feel motivated to write, but the more motivation you take back from the behaviors that are sapping it away from you, the more you'll have to plug into your writing. Next, decide which behaviors you'll cut out. You may not be able to cut them all out at once, so just pick 1 or 2 behaviors for each detox block. To get the most benefit, pick the behavior that's most stimulating and most ingrained first. Commit to cutting this out until it's second nature not to use it. For a simple example, let's say you have some sort of addiction, you occasionally binge on Netflix, and sometimes you spend hours a day browsing social media with no purpose. Since the addiction is the most damaging, most stimulating, and most ingrained, we want to focus on that first. Very ingrained behaviors have strong neural pathways that can take a while to atrophy. So you'll want to focus on this behavior until it doesn't take a lot of effort to deal with the cravings associated with it. This behavior may take 90 days or even half a year to get to a manageable point, but you'll have already freed up a ton of energy and motivation. After you've cleared that up, you'll want to focus on the Netflix binges and the social media use. And because these behaviors aren't as ingrained, you may only need 30 to 60 days to get their cravings to a manageable level. Remember, the point of these detox blocks is to let the neural pathways around this hyper-stimulating behavior atrophy. So if you engage in the behavior even once, you're reactivating these pathways and strengthening them, and we'll have to restart the detox block from scratch. I could definitely go into more depth about the dopamine detox, but this should be enough to get you started. However, if you do have any questions, just ask in the comments and I'll get back to you. To take advantage of all the energy and motivation we've created in the last 2 phases, we have to make sure we're motivating ourselves in the right way. The way you motivate yourself can either stand in your way or propel you forward, and that's what we're going to cover next. There are 2 methods people use to motivate themselves, either dark side motivation or light side motivation. In our context, dark side motivation would be using fear, shame, or anger directed at yourself to motivate yourself to write. This may look something like, if you don't work on this book now, you're never gonna make progress in your book and you'll be a failure. You can see how this sort of motivational technique might work in the short term, but would be very corrosive to your sense of self-worth. If you're constantly relying on this type of motivation, it's easy to end up burnt out. And it also associates the negative feelings with writing, which can hurt your natural passion for it. So what's the alternative? Light side motivation. Light side motivation is using goals, excitement, and positive pressure to inspire yourself to write. It's important to note that unless you have energy and motivation freed up from the first 2 phases we talked about, it'll be hard to rely on light side motivation. So how do we use light side motivation? First, figure out your goal very specifically. You should be able to express it in 1 sentence. Also figure out a deadline for this goal. Your goal and this deadline need to be exciting and, this is important, challenging. A good balance is feeling excited, but also a little bit nervous about accomplishing this within this time frame. Next, work backward from the main goal to figure out these sub-goals you'll need to accomplish it and deadlines for these sub-goals too. Next, smash that like button if you're enjoying this video so YouTube knows to show this content to more writers. Thanks. And the real next thing is to figure out a plan to reach that first sub-goal. Don't worry about the things standing in your way and just focus on the solution. For example, if you're a student who still has classes and homework you need to focus on, you wouldn't say to yourself, oh, I don't have enough time to write because I have these classes and this homework. Instead, you would say, how much time per day do I need to write to reach this first goal, and how can I find that time in my schedule? Figure out the main reasons why you want to achieve this goal. These reasons should be exciting to you, and you should embody excitement when you're thinking or talking about them. Remember, the brain strengthens the neural pathways that you use most often. So if you're creating excitement around this goal, you'll naturally become more excited to achieve it over time. One last thing that can get in your way is having a fixed mindset. I didn't really feel like I could properly cover this within the scope of this video, but it is vitally important. If you feel a lot of fear around your writing not being good enough, worry you don't have talent, or struggle with the feeling that you're not creative enough, then you should definitely look into this. The best resource is a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. She's the originator of the research that discovered the growth and fixed mindset, and her book contains everything you need to learn how to apply a growth mindset in your own life. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground so far, and now it's time to take some action. Maybe you need to work on self-care. Maybe you need to eliminate some hyper-stimulating behaviors. Whatever it is, write down the topic from this list that you will address first and plan how you will execute on it. If you apply these lessons in your life, you'll be able to tap into so much more energy and motivation, and you'll make so much more progress in your writing. And hopefully in half a year, you'll be looking back on yourself and wondering how you were ever so unmotivated. Along these same lines of finding writing inspiration, I'm also thinking of creating a video on generating ideas and one on overcoming writer's block. So if you want to see either of these two videos, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.